welcome to All Steelers Talk, your home for everything Pittsburgh Steelers, presented by allsteelers.com.
What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Schreckbein, joined every Monday and Wednesday by my main man, Steven Thompson. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. And today we got plenty to talk about. The Baltimore Ravens have a new wide receiver one, but does it really mean anything if they don't have a quarterback? On top of that, some interesting pre-draft visits for the Pittsburgh Steelers and a big name in the NFL draft that seemingly is sliding out of the top 10. The real question is, how close to that 17th pick does he need to get before the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the phone making some calls about moving up? It's been a beautiful week in the Burgh. Steven was enjoying his time down at the beach in Florida. I'm not even going to ask you how you've been or how you are right now. I want to know, how have you been with your week off? How did you enjoy your time away from some Pittsburgh Steelers football?
It was great. It was really good, restful. I did what I always did, and I got severely sunburned the first day I went to the beach down there, and was paying for it for the rest of the week. I get super sunburned the first day, and then have to sit under an umbrella for the rest of the week. So that was nice. Still dealing with it's in like the peeling off stage now, which is always fun. But no, yeah, I'm feeling good. It was great. Clearwater's a beautiful, beautiful city if you can ever go down there. It was a lot of fun, but I'm happy to be back talking Steelers football. Missed it.
And well, that's good to hear. Most people don't miss April football. So I'm glad to know that, we're the real troopers over here. That's what it is, and everybody's somebody's got to stay strong. It's us. The sunburn thing, at least I tell everybody this every single time because, I'm lucky enough to be full-blooded Italian. I don't even know what sunburn is, but it's just going to turn into a tan,
Right.
You're going to be the tannest person in Pittsburgh in like 4 days.
Right.
And that's all you need. That's all you need. It's a good time. That's nice. Clearwater, I've never been there. Tampa, you said it was right outside of Tampa, which is always good.
Yep.
Yeah, Florida's the place to be. Meanwhile, it was 85 degrees all week here, so I blame you.
I kind of wasted some days of nice weather here in Pittsburgh, but it seems like we'll be just fine this week.
Yeah.
Brought the Florida weather back with me.
Yeah, thank you for that. We're on the brink of like it's going to be 90, and then second winter comes, and then we round it out. Then we're done. Summer's here. Absolutely. Everybody's back in the facility, and it's a good time. Let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers football. We'll start with the Baltimore Ravens making the addition of Odell Beckham Jr., a one-year deal worth $15.5 million, could go up to $18 million. I saw somebody from The Athletic say that an NFL executive straight out said to him after the signing that crazy was pretty much the word he would use. He wouldn't even say overpaid. When you saw the deal, first off, I think I was surprised that it happened this quickly to Baltimore with their questions about a quarterback. But, what were your thoughts on the matter?
Well, yeah, that was my first kind of thought, is why invest this kind of money in a big-time receiver when you don't even know who's going to be throwing to him? My next thought was kind of, does this make it any more likely that Lamar will play with the franchise tag? I get one of the gripes with the Ravens was the lack of weapons and stuff like that, but it still seems like it's all about the money with him, which just goes back to, why would you invest this kind of money in a move that is not going to move the needle for you unless you have your elite MVP caliber quarterback with you?
Yeah, that's how I mean, you saw the picture. Did you see the picture of Lamar and OBJ last night after?
Yeah, they were FaceTiming with each other.
FaceTime thing. I took that as a hint that he's going to play this season, but I also, like at the end of the day, money speaks. And if I've learned anything in the NFL, it's that, like getting a star wide receiver is cool, and that certainly helps things, I believe. But $200 million guaranteed is always going to trump Odell Beckham Jr. Like, that's not going to change. And my thought was like, yeah, okay, it was cool. It was a good signing. I think that for OBJ, for a guy who clearly said, I want to go be on a contender and, make some money, it kind of just felt like he just took the biggest deal that he was offered. He didn't expect to get a deal lower than this, which, I mean, $18 million that's huge for a 30-year-old wide receiver who hasn't played in a year and a half.
Right. Coming off what was the injury? Achilles,
An
ACL?
ACL, so
Mhm.
ACL injury in the Super Bowl, didn't play last season. So you're 30, a year removed from football. You have no idea what you're going to get out of this guy, and you just handed him $15.5 million and can make $18 million. Like to me, Odell Beckham Jr. got a steal. And I think he realized that, took the money. And at the same argument, Lamar has got to be sitting there going, you just handed this guy $15.5 million, but you won't pay me what I'm worth. You're going to overpay a 30-year-old wide receiver, but you won't pay the value of your 26-year-old MVP quarterback. It was a good
Right.
move for them, like, to save face and kind of say, hey, we're trying, we're trying. But I don't think it, just like you said, I don't think it moves the needle at all. Like if I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan, I'm still sitting here thinking we are in a lot of trouble because we don't have a quarterback. Like they just don't. Odell Beckham Jr. isn't going to convince Lamar to play this season. He's just not.
Yeah, and it's not like the Ravens are working with this abundance of cap space either. Like, why even? I don't know. If you wanted a receiver, that was fine, but like this receiver for that much money at this moment in time, it makes no sense, and it seems purely kind of like you referenced a saving face move, just to say,
Right.
oh, we're trying something. But I don't know. That's an expensive way to show that you're trying, and I just don't see how it changes their outlook for the coming year. I mean, it's like you're still all centered around, oh, is Lamar coming back or not? But with $15 million less in cap space.
Yeah.
Eh,
And then last week, while you were gone, Anthony Richardson comes to Baltimore on a pre-draft visit. My mind starts going. I put out an article I don't know, near the end of last week. It was it's a theory on, well, why are they scouting the guy that's going to go top 5 in the NFL draft when they pick 22nd? That's just not going to happen. So there's got to be some thought of them moving up. The Indianapolis Colts would be the team to move up to do it with. If you're, I mean, for two sides here, I don't think Odell Beckham Jr. really cares. Like he could be like, Tyler Huntley could be my quarterback. I'm making $15.5 million this season.
right.
I didn't sign here to win a Super Bowl. Like I signed here to make $15.5 million. Could have went to a Super Bowl contender, decided to come to Baltimore. I mean, the Ravens might be looking at this saying, well, we'll just go get a rookie quarterback, get rid of Lamar. He'll have a very reliable set of hands to throw the football to. But I don't think, again, like it's a 1-year solution for a team that came into this season with everybody upset about how they just continue to do patchwork instead of actually fixing problems. And their biggest issue is their quarterback that they're just trying to do patchwork on instead of finding a long-term solution with Lamar Jackson. It just, again, like it seems to fall, nothing's changed. Like it's a big headline. It's very cool for the Ravens, and it's exciting, and it'll sell jerseys, and it'll get people in the stadium, and fans can be excited for a little while. But it follows the exact trend of everything that they've done wrong this offseason. And I just think that it stays the same there. But at the same time, you do have a reliable set of hands if you do get a rookie. I'm not going to say for Tyler Huntley. I don't think that, you could put Tyler
Right.
Huntley back there with every wide receiver possible. I don't think it does anything. But for a rookie quarterback, I mean, that's got to add some confidence. Let me ask this. If the Ravens go out and get DeAndre Hopkins now, do you think that's enough to say, oh, okay, now I think that Lamar's got to come back because he sees the opportunity in this season?
It'd be tempting, for sure. But just can the Ravens do that? Like
I
I
heard
don't even
that DeAndre's got a like he's willing to take a pay cut to whatever team he's traded to.
interesting. Okay, so maybe it is possible. I mean, yeah, like if I'm Lamar Jackson, at a certain point we were talking about him and his relationship with the Ravens saying that he is kind of their future, and
Yeah.
they kind of go as Lamar Jackson goes, but you throw in a guy like DeAndre Hopkins and Odell Beckham Jr., and I think Lamar is looking at his first big chance for not just regular season but postseason success ever in his career.
Yeah.
His
He's
first
got
real
one playoff win. So
right,
yeah.
his first real chance to win a Super Bowl, and you just think about all the things that they'd be able to do, even just with DeAndre Hopkins in that offense. Never mind Odell Beckham Jr. and Lamar Jackson in. It would just open up so many things for him. It would be, in my opinion, if I'm Lamar Jackson, probably an opportunity that's too good to pass over.
Yeah, I agree. And that was my thought immediately. Is there is a very short list of guys that could come into Baltimore and keep this together, keep it intact. Odell Beckham Jr. is not one of them, unfortunately. DeAndre Hopkins is. Like, DeAndre Hopkins comes somewhere and you immediately start thinking, okay, this offense could be something, because worst case scenario, I'll just always throw it up to DeAndre Hopkins and he'll come down with it enough times that I feel comfortable that we'll win games. Odell is not going to give you that, but you get the opportunity to play with a guy like DeAndre and see if you can make some magic, I think I don't want to say is big enough to trump $200 million, but for a year, I think it's big enough to take a chance. And on top of that, I mean, Lamar strikes me as a guy who will take a chance on himself just to prove to everybody I am worth this money. If I'm Lamar, and the fact that he doesn't have an agent scares me in this situation, because I think an agent would tell him, dude, stop. You're crazy. Sit out. You'll make the money. But the fact that it's just him and his mom, I think he'll say, I'm going to go prove myself. I'm going to go play. I'm going to go win a Super Bowl. And I mean, I wouldn't advise to do that. But if you get a guy like DeAndre, it's hard to say no. Now, a guy like Odell, I don't feel that way. And I don't think his thought process is that either. And if it is, I mean, I hope somebody tells him to stop. But again, it just doesn't move the needle. Like, it doesn't move the needle in the entire situation. And I think on top of that, it's a little bit sad that a 30-year-old coming off an ACL surgery, Odell Beckham Jr., is like the greatest wide receiver Lamar's ever had 5 years into his NFL career. Like, that's just, it's a little sad. Like, it's a little sad for the Baltimore Ravens. I don't expect much from them.
Yeah, it is. And you just think about what Lamar could have done if he's, I guess, done right by his team is not.
No, done right. I agree with you on there. I think done right by his team. I think the past 5 years, it's just been ignoring major issues in this offense because they just anticipate Lamar will just save them.
Right, and that's kind of my next point, is that they're not that far from, like, they have really good defense. They have a ton of talent on defense. It's like a lot of the solutions are in-house. And I think you looked at that team and you plug Lamar back in when he's healthy and you get him some pass. Like, when you look at it from a 30,000 foot view, the Ravens aren't unfixable and they're not that far away from being a contender. It's just they've seemed so unwilling to make the tough decisions that, like I get it, Lamar has some risk attached to him just because of how he plays and his injury history, but I don't know. The Ravens are unwilling to go all in on the guy that they went all in on when they drafted him, and it just kind of makes no sense, which is why, again, it just seems unlikely that they're going to go all in on a guy like DeAndre Hopkins to keep Lamar around and to keep him, I don't know, in the fold.
I think that at this point, their strategy is, let's just try to peacock our way into Lamar playing under the non-exclusive franchise tag. I don't think it's going to work. But just like you said, I think the Baltimore Ravens are a quarterback away, a quarterback and a capable offense away from being a Super Bowl contender. Lamar Jackson's that quarterback. I don't know if they have the capable offense, but if they could put that together, they're right there. But again, I just don't see. I've already kind of ruled the Baltimore Ravens out of my head as a contender this season. And that's good news for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who seemingly are just going to get better, in year 2 with Kenny Pickett and that defense, and hopefully Matt Canada and the rest of everything that's going on. On top of that, actually, before we talk pre-draft visits, I do want to get your opinion on this, because you were not around last week for me to ask the opinion. I don't know if you saw it while you were chilling on the beach, but the Steelers hired an offensive assistant coach, Glenn Thomas. Guy comes long list of quarterback coach, offensive coordinator through the ranks, Made Baylor a top 10 team in the nation. Charlie Brewer, 69 touchdown passes, I believe, in his career, maybe a season, I don't even know. Developed Matt Ryan, helped Matt Rule and the Temple Owls go back-to-back 10-win seasons. Has the connection to Kenny Pickett because he was the OC in Temple where Kenny originally committed to college. Do you look at this? What were your thoughts when you saw it? Did you see it and go, well, there it is. There's Matt Canada's replacement. Or did you just say, okay, this was a good move, or maybe it was a bad move?
So this guy, no offensive coordinating experience in the NFL, right?
Offensive assistant, like the position he has now, he held in Atlanta like 10 years ago, and also was their quarterbacks coach at the time.
Yes. Okay. So by that virtue, and this was a point, I think I saw Brian Back, the Post Gazette, make it at the time, but I thought it was a really good one. He might be. It is well within, I guess, the realm of possibility. Like it's a non-zero chance that he could be Matt Canada's replacement, but it seems very un-Steelers like and very Mike Tomlin like to bring in a guy without offensive coordinating experience in the NFL to replace someone, like that.
Didn't he do that with Matt Canada?
I guess,
Not right now. I'm talking a year from now.
Yeah, but still, I mean, I don't know. This, like, a guy who's, I guess you're right about Matt Canada, but
yeah,
I mean, look how that has turned out. Like,
oh yeah,
I don't know,
it turned out awful.
Right. So the recent history is not particularly kind.
Yeah,
I suppose so. I don't know. I feel like they're more likely to bring in someone who maybe won't wow you, but is more established than this. Like, I think they're gonna lean on, whenever Matt Canada leaves, they are going to lean on someone with actual NFL experience next time. Like, I don't know. This experiment did not work, and I get the sense that that's going to kind of scare them away from. Could you call Matt Canada an up and comer? Because it's weird. Because Matt Canada wasn't particularly young when he took this job.
He wasn't young, but he was like supposed to be like that new revolution of football. You know what I mean? Like,
right. And
fun, dynamic offensive coordinator. Didn't happen. I agree. I didn't think about it like that. With the whole like, would you try it again after it didn't work out the first time? I guess you just gotta like hope that Mike Tomlin learned from his mistakes. Can't honestly say that. Well, as I'm saying that, I feel confident that he did, or that he will. Like I could easily see Mike Tomlin going, yeah, well, it didn't work. We're gonna try it again. And if it doesn't work the second time, then we'll figure it out from there. Or just completely ignoring the fact that those two connections exist and just being like, well, this is our guy. But at the same time, you have to hope that the improvement and the self-reflection is there. So I do agree with that analysis. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're wrong. I liked it. I thought it was a good hire for the position. I think it's a really good hire.
Yeah.
I think, they could do absolutely nothing, but I'm excited to get a new name in there, get a new fresh face, see if it changes anything, see if it improves the offense.
It is just interesting having kind of another cook in the kitchen per se.
Yeah.
Like, you've already got, is it Pat Sullivan? It's Pat
Mike
Sullivan.
Sullivan.
Mike Sullivan? Isn't Mike Sullivan also the name of the Penguins coach?
It is.
Okay, that's why I'm get confused about it.
Yeah. Pat Sullivan was a basketball coach, college basketball coach, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know, name sounds familiar.
Mike Sullivan. But yeah, you've got Mike Sullivan in there who's got offensive coordinating experience. Now you've got Canada, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on this guy's
Glenn
name.
Thomas.
Glenn Thomas. Now you've got three guys in there with offensive coordinating experience. You've got it's just interesting that they are getting Matt Canada help per se.
Yeah.
I think
it is interesting there. I'm also very excited that it's not a Byron Leftwich. I thought that would have been a good move. I think Glenn Thomas is a better move. Really? Come in here, have some really solid quarterback experience, minimal question marks about developing a quarterback. You know what I mean? Like Byron Leftwich, the big thing was, well, did Tom Brady do it? Was it Bruce Arians' offense? It's like, all right, yeah, maybe you're right there. With Glenn Thomas, it's just like, oh yeah, no, definitely. If you turn the Baylor Bears into something crazy, and you like Charlie Brewer didn't turn into anything. Nobody knows who Charlie Brewer is. The only reason I know who Charlie Brewer is because on the long list of accomplishments of Glenn Thomas, Charlie Brewer's name just is right there with 69 touchdown passes. You helped develop Matt Ryan. you help Matt Rule turn Temple into something like,
Right.
it just feels like there's sturdy resume reflection there instead of just like
Yeah,
another
and
question
there's
mark.
the idea of making something out of nothing, I think, is
Yes.
the experience doing that. Like Baylor was Baylor was in a rough place when Matt Rule took over. So was Temple. I mean, Temple had 100 years of nothing
Yes.
history. Baylor was coming off of like one of the worst college sports scandals ever. But it took a lot of work to build those programs up into winners, and to be a part of that, certainly, it speaks for itself.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You needed somebody who just knows how to lay the groundwork. I agree with you there. All right, let's talk pre-draft visits. Two huge names that stood out in the most recent selection of prospects to come in. The Steelers are nearing that 30 mark on these top 30 visits. Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon, probably the top corner in the class. Don't expect him to fall out of the top 10. I don't think many expect him to fall out of the top 10. And then the other one is Clayton Tune, Houston quarterback. Major questions there, but his stat line's pretty impressive. We looked it up before the show. The guy's, he's got some marks to look at and say, oh, okay, maybe there's a little bit of optimism here. Let's start with Christian Gonzalez. You bring in the top cornerback in the class. Do you look at this as they're just doing their homework? Because in my opinion, there's no point in doing homework. Like you're not bringing in
Right.
Jalen Carter hoping that he slides out of the top 10. Why would you bring in Christian Gonzalez thinking he's going to slide out of the top 10 unless their mindset is maybe this is the guy that we're going to move up for? If they're thinking like that.
Well, yeah, just how much homework do you have to do? This guy's been the top corner in the draft, maybe not the top corner in the draft, but at least top two, top three for months. Like going back to the beginning of the year, I guess in January, but like there are no surprises. There should be no surprises with this guy already. So I don't get it in that sense. I feel like if they were, I just don't know what a meeting with Christian Gonzalez would tell you, that the film and everything you saw at the combine and everything else and whatever informal meetings they've had with him wouldn't have told them.
Yeah.
If you're not sold on Christian Gonzalez yet, what did you need to see?
That's what I'm saying. Like what was why are you, it would be one thing if it was like, oh, they had a formal interview with them at the combine, just like you said. And then you're like, oh, okay, cool. Well, like, this is an opportunity to meet with them, but you only have 30 pre-draft visits.
Right.
You're clearly spending time on later round guys because you're looking at a quarterback when you don't necessarily need a quarterback. Why are you wasting a visit on a guy that, for one, isn't going to be there at 17? And there's not like a trend. Like it's not like there's like, oh, well, there's question marks. There's no question marks. It's Christian
Right.
Gonzalez is just consensus top corner, maybe number 2 corner in the draft. And even if he's number 2, like he's pick 9 or pick 10 instead of
Right.
pick 6. Like it doesn't make sense to me to say, oh, well, we're just going to do our homework on all of the top corners. It's like, yeah, I get that, definitely, but you're also looking at defensive linemen. You're not talking to Jalen Carter. You're not inviting Will Anderson in for a pre-draft
Right.
visit. Like, Paris Johnson didn't come in for a pre-draft visit. It just, like why Christian Gonzalez? It's just a big, giant question mark on their thinking of, maybe they are like, maybe they're looking at this situation and going, if he's there at 12, 13, he's clearly the best corner in the draft. But I think like at that point, like, why are you taking Keely Ringo out to dinner like 2 months after you met with him at his
Right.
pro day?
Yeah.
Like, like why are you falling in love with all these other guys? Why, it's not like if you draft Christian Gonzalez or you miss Christian Gonzalez and you have to settle for Joey Porter Jr., you're like, oh man, we
Yeah.
missed out. Like,
Right. That's the other thing. Like, if Christian Gonzalez is falling, you're going to get a great guy, especially at corner, like a guy that you really like
yeah,
at that same position at your pick that you don't even have to move for. Um, yeah, I don't understand this really at all.
no,
Um, but I don't
no.
know. Maybe they're thinking of moving up. I don't know. Like maybe they're moving up in the top 10 for him.
That's the thing, is like it'd have to be in the top 10, because just like you said, like if he slides, like, with Jalen Carter, and I want to talk about Jalen Carter in a minute, but with a guy like Jalen Carter, if he slides to 11 or 12, you're on the phone for him. If Christian Gonzalez slides to 11 or 12, and even like Devin Witherspoon goes in the top 10 in front of him, well, Joey Porter Jr. is still on the board. Keely Ringo's still on the board. Emmanuel Forbes is still on the board. Tyreek Stevenson's still on the board. Cam Smith's still on the board. Like there's just almost no need to say, oh, well, we got to go get our guy and make a move here. Like there's chances are somebody's going to be there. Now, if he slides to 15, maybe you're like, okay, let's move up and go get our guy here. 2 picks, you're not going to have to give up much. But like the chances of that are so slim.
Right.
Especially compared to names like Peter Skoronski, who they haven't brought in for a pre-draft visit. Paris Johnson, who they haven't brought in for a pre-draft visit. Like, why is it the top corner that might slide instead of left tackles who likely will be there from 10 to 15, that maybe you should be focusing on those instead of this guy?
Right. And it's that on top of the fact that Ringo and Forbes and and not Witherspoon, Porter. But yeah, there are going to be so many other corners so you can draft at that 17 pick or even later. So if you want to move up for something else.
You see this guy right here?
Little guest appearance.
He's been standing behind me the whole time.
He's furious at the idea of the Steelers wasting a top 30 visit on.
He's furious because I went home for the weekend to my parents' house to enjoy Easter with my family.
Yeah.
And I came back and he's just like, did you know that you left me for 2 whole days? Well, I don't know what you're doing. So now he's just sitting here the whole day.
Making up for lost time.
Yeah. He made 2 guest appearances while you were gone as well. The guy just, I think he's coming for your job, for being honest.
Okay.
I think not that he's got a shot, but I think Fitzgerald's, he's tossing his name out there like, hey man, you need another co-host. I got you.
I got my eye on him. But
good old Fitzy.
But yeah, where were we? But yeah, like going for trading up for a corner, which you're gonna have your pick of the rest. It's a deep cornerback class. You're gonna have your pick of the rest of the guys instead of looking at one of these offensive linemen or Jalen Carter who could fall. Yeah, this just weird. It feels like a weird allocation of your time and your resources when you'll have options.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like it's a very strange allocation of your top 30 visits when there are other ways to utilize and kind of scout guys that I think fill a bigger need, who have a more likely chance of sliding into that top 10 to 15 range. In that same conversation, Jalen Carter, a name that apparently, according to reports, is being lifted from draft boards. I have been told by at least 2 teams in the top 10 that Jalen Carter actually is off of their draft board. He won't take calls or schedule pre-draft visits with anybody outside of the top 10 because him and Drew Rosenhaus believe that he's definitely a top 10 pick in the draft. I mean, first off, I don't think that's a consensus pick or decision anymore. I don't think that's the thought. Second off, even if they don't take him in for a pre-draft visit, even if they don't get to do that last bit of homework on him, if he slides out of the top 10 and you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think it's got to be assumed that they at least make a couple of phone calls to say, hey, what do we got to do to go get this guy?
Yeah, you're absolutely seeing what it would take, but be nice. It would be nice. You just, I don't know. I'm not so sure. I was perfectly comfortable with the idea of going, corner, maybe trading up for offensive lineman if it's Skoronski or Johnson or something like that. I don't know. I just thought I loved seeing mock drafts where they were waiting until the later rounds to get defensive linemen. I wasn't that concerned with getting them in the first round. Jalen Carter makes you rethink that a little bit.
Yes, 100%. He's the best player in the draft, in my opinion. Like,
really?
I think Will Anderson's very good. I think they're 1A, 1B. But I think what Jalen Carter can do when he's like peak athletic form, peak Jalen Carter, is just like it's edge rushers are really, really good and they're flashy and they're cool. But like what Jalen Carter could do in the middle of a football field and in the middle of a defensive line is just like almost unstoppable at times. He's got the body, he's got the size. He'd come to Pittsburgh and he'd play with Cam Hayward, who if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you want to utilize Cam Hayward's last final seasons, having the best player in the draft at that position, a guy that is already looked at as a superstar, who at one point was being considered the possible number one pick in the draft, to learn alongside this guy while getting NFL experience. I mean, I just think that's the perfect formula for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think you could go wrong there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. But what would it cost?
That's the big one. What would it cost?
Right, because if it's like 3 picks, because you're moving up into the top. I guess you're moving up into the top 15 probably.
Yeah, I think
12,
that's the big question is like, what do you like? How long are you willing to wait? Like if it's 11, like the draft order outside of the top 10 all gets very dangerous. So 10 is the Philadelphia Eagles, which I think is a dangerous team to take Jalen Carter. Tennessee Titans, dangerous team to take Jalen Carter, but at the same time just signed Jeffrey Simmons to a huge deal. Houston Texans, definitely a dangerous team. And then the New York Jets. Maybe not, like they'd take them. They don't really need them, but I think they'd take them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where are you waiting? Like, are you going just 11? Boom, we're on the phone with the Titans. Let's make a deal done. Let's not take any risks. Because I think at that point, like maybe you're giving up 32. You know what I mean?
Right. And I don't know if I want to do that.
I agree.
I just think like the value loss from I love that 32 pick. I think that's going to be, yeah.
Me too. I think it's the best pick the Steelers have. Like by far.
Oh yeah,
actually.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. And so I'm just, and that would be the first thing to go. Well, 17 would have to go, but 32. If I'm trading away a top 15 pick and I'm not getting that 32 from the Steelers, that I don't know, that deal's not happening. So
that's what I'm saying.
And I understand what you could add. I think the value lost of that 32, I could really care less about the 17th pick, quite honestly. But that's
what I'm saying. Like if I gave up a 17th and like next year's second round pick, cool. Feeling real good about that one.
Right.
17 and 49, cool. Feeling real good about that one. 17 and 80, cool. Fine. 32, like there's just so much substance there. There's the ability where there's I think the biggest thing about 32 is the fact that you have to wait 24 hours before you make that selection. And in that 24 hours, all 32 teams all 31 other teams in the NFL are going to call you. And they're going to say, hey, let's make this offer. Here's my offer. What do we have to do to make a trade? Like you will have so much attention on you for that pick. And if somebody slides, that's only more dangerous. Like it could be a position that you don't even need. But like if Bijan Robinson slides out of the first round, do you know how many people are going to call the Pittsburgh Steelers to go get Bijan Robinson? Like literally every single person. If Will Levis falls out of the first round, Hendon Hooker, somehow slides out of, or I shouldn't say somehow, but if he slides out of that first round and continues to gain the speed and the momentum that he has right now, like people are going to lose their minds. If, Darnell Wright or Dwan Jones is sitting there at 32, you have your pick at left tackle. Like there's just so many options for the Pittsburgh Steelers at 39. That being said, when they moved up to get Devin Bush, they gave up, I believe it was next year's first. So it was, I don't believe it was a lot. I mean, it was their pick. It was their current first round pick. And then I believe it was next year's first. Could be wrong on that. But if that's what they have to give up, I'm going to consider it. I'm not going to say no for Jalen Carter.
If it's 2 picks, if it's 17 and 32, that's one thing. And I'm less likely to do it. But if it's only 2 picks, if it's like 17 and 49.
Oh, I'm pulling the trigger. Easy.
Absolutely. Easy. Absolutely.
No questions asked. From what you could get at 49, like who cares? I'll wait till 80. I got 32. Like I just got Jalen Carter and I got 32. I could get my corner. Like they love Keely Ringo apparently. You get Keely Ringo. If you got Jalen Carter and Keely Ringo.
Yeah, just rebuild the Georgia Bulldogs.
That's what I'm saying. Like totally fine. totally fine. You have a national champion. You have the two most impactful players from not this past championship, because Stetson Bennett went out for 400, 300 million yards, but the year before, most important people on that team. Like Jalen Carter
on one of the best defenses, one of the best college defenses ever. They were the best players.
And they could learn from, and they get to learn from Cam Hayward, Larry Ogunjobi, who's a good vet to learn from, and Patrick Peterson.
Yeah.
Like, that's a win-win. Like, that's as good of a win as you could get if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think if they get to 10, I'm calling. Like, if Jalen Carter slides to the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm going to call the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think they would say yes, because I think they would rather Jalen Carter. But if they pass up on him,
well, are they gonna take? They still have Brandon Graham, right?
Mm-hmm.
They retained a lot. Like Hargrave didn't sign somewhere.
No, Hargrave went to San Francisco.
Yeah, but they still have
Jordan Davis.
Yeah, they still have Jordan Davis in there. I don't know if it's a slam dunk that they would take.
I don't either. That's the thing, is I think that if Christian Gonzalez is still on the board, they'll consider Christian Gonzalez. I think Bijan Robinson's a very sneaky pick for them right there at 10. Like, I think they're
not taking Bijan at 10. I don't know.
Maybe.
Bijan's, I don't know.
He's a running back. I understand that. But, if with the way that they operate a football team, possibly. I'm just agreeing. Like, I don't think that it's a slam dunk that like Jalen Carter is our guy.
Yeah.
We're going to check, especially if he slides to the top 10. Like, they might be thinking, yeah, well, we just got to steal, or they're thinking there's got to be a reason here. Like, I was told that one team within the top 10 removed Jalen Carter months ago because they knew all these issues were going to come up well before they started to, like, that's just the reputation that this guy has within some of these teams in the top 10. If the Eagles are one of them, you get to 11, the Titans don't need him that bad. You can make a trade with the Titans.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's a very big possibility for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Would I say it's closer to 0 than it is 100? Yes, 100%. Yeah. But I think the door is very much so open, and I'm not ready to shut it. And I think the closer we get to the draft, that is a name to watch. I think the other part of this is he has said that he's not going to accept phone calls outside of the top 10. I think that if the Pittsburgh Steelers have one pre-draft visit left at the end of this month and they call Jalen Carter, he's going to Pittsburgh. Like, there's no way that he's sitting there and Mike Tomlin picks up the phone and calls him and he goes, "Oh, sorry, Mike, I'm not coming to Pittsburgh." Like, it's Mike Tomlin in the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're going.
Well, especially if he's been sitting on his couch for the past month. Not sitting on his couch, but you know what I mean. Like, if he hasn't done a visit yet, and he's only taken top 10 visits, and you get to the very end of this and no one's called him. Yeah. Then
I think so far he's got the Seattle Seahawks, and that's it. That's literally the only meeting he's got. Like, you can't feel real confident about that situation. And I could see if the Titans call and you say no, and the Texans call and you say no. The Pittsburgh Steelers call, you say yes. Like, that's just what it is. Like, Mike Tomlin holds such ground in the NFL that, especially for the young defensive players, like, Drew Rosenhaus is smart enough to go, yeah, well, maybe we could convince them to go get you. And that is the team we would like to be on. Like, I don't know. I just think it makes a lot of sense for both sides, unless the trade value is too high. But we'll get to that come draft night. None of that'll happen till we're all sitting on our couches trying to enjoy the draft, and just, that 9th pick shows up and Jalen Carter's name's not called, and then it's just like, all right,
go time.
Yep. Roller coaster's moving here. Let's see what happens. And it'll be an exciting time. With that, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk, and check us out anywhere you get your podcast. Find all of mine and Steven's work on allsteelers.com, and go check out Steven's pick coverage at Inside the Panthers. We will be back on Wednesday. Enjoy the beginning of a beautiful week here in the Berg. Peace.